You ever seen a man so calm under threat that it makes the armed ones look like the fools? That was my grandfather. A Korean War vet who came back harder than steel and allergic to anyone waving authority in his face. And the first thing you need to know? He never flinched. Not once. Before we dive in, comment which country you're watching from. Let's see how far this story travels. He just sat there, calm as a Sunday sermon, rocking in that sagging porch chair, a rag in one hand and in the other, a pistol older than both of them combined, his 1948 Colt. He wasn't waving it, wasn't even pointing it, just cleaning it slow and steady, the kind of steady that says, "I've been here before, son, and you don't want to test me." That's when they came, strutting up the gravel drive. Two men, not real cops, not even close. Tactical vests, stamped HOA compliance officer across the front in big white block letters, mirrored sunglasses hiding their eyes. They looked like bargain bin SWAT, fresh from a costume shop, boots too new to be real. Brenda Holbrook, the HOA president who thought the neighborhood was her kingdom, had sent them to scare us off. One had a crowbar resting across his shoulder, smirking like he was already halfway through tearing down our barn. The other had a pistol, finger too close to the trigger, trying hard to look steady, but giving himself away with the twitch in his knuckles. "This land isn't yours anymore," the crowbar guy sneered. He jabbed the air like he was issuing a verdict. "The HOA says your property falls under our rules now. That barn? Code violation. You're trespassing on your own land." Grandpa didn't even glance up, just kept running that rag over the Colt, barrel gleaming in the light. Then he let out this dry chuckle, the kind that comes from someone who's seen real battles and knows when he's looking at amateurs. "Boys," he said, voice steady as stone, "I was holding this patch of dirt before you were even born. You're not the law. You're just kids playing dress-up with a bad script." The one with the pistol bristled, jaw tightening. "Don't be stupid, old man," he barked. The board voted unanimously. Non-compliance means forced correction. That means either you fix things or you get out. Grandpa finally lifted his eyes, cool and sharp. He laid the Colt across his lap, not pointing, just there. A quiet reminder of exactly who they were dealing with. This land doesn't answer to your board. It's exempt. It's been exempt since 1948. And the law still respects that, even if Brenda doesn't. The two fake cops shifted on their boots, puffing themselves up, but I could see the unease in their shoulders. They came to intimidate, and already they were the ones feeling small. This was just the opening move. The next few days were like clockwork harassment. First came the bogus violation slips stuffed into our mailbox. No letterhead, no signatures, just lists of nonsense. Non-standard mailbox, fence deterioration, excessive rustic elements. Rustic elements? That was their way of saying goats. My grandfather's goats had been here longer than Brenda's manicured lawn, but she didn't care. Every slip went the same way. Grandpa hammered it to a post by the goat pen like trophies. He called it paperwork recycling. By Friday, the stack was thick enough to cover half the fence. But Brenda wasn't done. Saturday morning, two black SUVs with tinted windows idled just past our property line. No plates, just sitting there, watching. They tailed me when I went into town. The feed store, the gas station, even the post office. Always the same sunglasses-wearing men, clipboards in hand, like they were filming an episode of Community Cops, HOA edition. Grandpa didn't flinch. Every time they crept closer, he'd settled deeper into that porch chair, cleaning the Colt, rocking steady. Not a threat, a promise. And every time they'd back off. Brenda finally tried to make it official. She marched up our drive with two more of her so-called compliance officers. Khakis and polo shirts this time, vests with community enforcement stitched in bold. Clipboard, tablet, radios. They thought the props made them legit. "We're here for inspection," one of them announced. "Fire hazards, hoarding conditions, and trespassing," Grandpa cut in, "which is exactly what you're doing right now. This land is exempt under the 1948 deed. Step off before I call the sheriff and my lawyer at the same time. We'll see who gets here first." The men shifted. Brenda tried that fake sweet smile of hers. "Jack, come on. Don't make this harder than it has to be. We're just trying to keep the community safe." Grandpa laid the Colt on his lap, the barrel gleaming in the sun. He didn't raise it, didn't need to. "Community's safe enough until you showed up." Her smile cracked. They retreated, but not before muttering psycho under their breath. That night, it escalated. 3 dead rats stuffed in a paper bag left in our mailbox. Spray paint across the goat pen reading, "Get out." Trash pickup skipped. Mail went missing. Neighbors I'd known for years crossed the street to avoid eye contact. But Grandpa, he just shook his head. "Told you they'd sniff around, son? They always do." I started digging into his barn, looking for anything we could use. Inside, buried under dust and old crates, I found the jackpot. Notarized deeds, exemption papers from the HOA's formation in 1981, even a boundary map signed by Howard, Grandpa's best friend who later became zoning officer. Ironclad proof that our land wasn't theirs to touch. That's when I realized Brenda's play wasn't about rules anymore. It was about power. She wanted to break us, one way or another. And the next move she made, that's when it all boiled over. If you're enjoying this HOA story so far, like and subscribe because the story is only going to get better. It was broad daylight when the showdown finally came. Grandpa was already standing on the porch, upright and steady as a fence post, his hands clasped behind him. He looked more like a sentry than a retiree, framed by the old farmhouse he'd built decades ago. That's when the black SUV rolled up, crunching gravel under its tires. Out climbed two men dressed in knockoff tactical gear, vests emblazoned with HOA compliance officer in bold white letters. One carried a crowbar, spinning it like he thought it made him tough. The other, he raised a Glock and aimed it straight at Grandpa's chest. "This property's under HOA authority now," the gunman barked. "You're trespassing on your own land. That barn's coming down today, with or without you standing in the way." Grandpa didn't flinch. He tilted his chin, voice calm as a church bell. "Son, I've been guarding this land since before you were born, and I don't answer to fake badges or hired muscle. You want to test me, you'd better be ready." The gunman smirked, finger tightening on the trigger. That was his last mistake. In one smooth motion, Grandpa swung his arm from behind his back, the gleam of his 1948 Colt catching the sun, and fired. The shot cracked across the air like a thunderclap. The bullet slammed into the gunman's shoulder, spinning him off his feet. His Glock hit the dirt with a clatter as he screamed, clutching the wound. The crowbar thug lunged, roaring. But Grandpa was faster. He sidestepped, drove his Colt's barrel down across the man's knee, and the crack of bone echoed louder than his cry. The crowbar dropped uselessly. The man collapsed, writhing in the gravel. By now, neighbors had flooded their porches, phones raised high. They caught it all on video. Not some reckless old man firing wildly, but a Korean War vet delivering calm, controlled justice. One round, one injury, no deaths, just enough to end the threat. Within minutes, real deputies screamed down the road, sirens wailing. They leapt out, weapons drawn, but it didn't take long to see the truth. Two wounded imposters in stolen gear, one Glock recovered, and a neighborhood full of witnesses telling the same story. The law came down fast. The gunman and crowbar thug were hit with 18 U.S. Code 912, impersonating an officer, 18 U.S. Code 922, unlawful possession of a firearm, and state-level charges for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. The sheriff himself told me they were looking at no less than 10 years combined. As for Brenda Holbrook, our power-drunk HOA president, her fingerprints were all over it. Emails, text messages, even reimbursement slips showing she'd paid those goons out of HOA funds. That made it criminal conspiracy, misuse of HOA finances, and harassment under state law. She was dragged into court, stripped of her position, fined heavily, and barred from serving on any association board ever again. And the HOA itself? The judge ordered a full audit. Turned out they'd siphoned thousands from dues into Brenda's little compliance division. The verdict dissolved the entire HOA, nullified every fine they'd ever written, and forced restitution to homeowners. Grandpa's shot that day didn't just save our land. It ended a reign of clipboard tyranny that had poisoned the whole block.